and keep up with us that way. Is that a way a word? Okay, I'll go ahead. Thank you, Dr. Blair. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Everyone please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone, our IT might be coming back up here. I'm going to use the chairman's prerogative to move the agenda item number 3 under zoning ordinance and resolutions up, as we have 2 callers on the phone, one of them under the weather and the other one traveling. The first thing I'd like to do after that is get permission for, and we'll do 2 people, 1 vote, Ms. Pastucia and Ms. Relaford to participate by phone. Could I get a motion? Mr. Dillon, Mr. Rosenbaum on the second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Madam Clerk, I think you could record that as unanimous. Could I get a motion to place number 3, recommending the amendment to the budget, $50,000 for our progress, our report? Would you like to read it, Madam Clerk? Okay, I'll let the clerk read it.
Item number 3 is a resolution from your executive committee recommending approval of an amendment to the FY22 general fund budget in the amount of $50,000 for the purpose of contributing to the cost of preparing an application for the passenger rail corridor identification and development program.
Thank you. Could I get a motion? Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Bryant. Thank you. We discussed this comprehensively in executive session. I know there were some members who were not part of that. We'd like to have some more discussion. I'm perfectly prepared to do that. Also, please note we have on the phone Ms. Relaford and Ms. Pastucia. I'd like to ask either of them if they'd like to make any comments, since I don't recall either of them speaking up in executive committee. Ms. Relaford, do you have any comments?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Pastucia? Same question.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'll be back to the members who I can see. Comments. I know we'll go to Mr. Rosenbaum, then Ms. Groves Allison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the issues I have tonight is we're running this through, I found out on Sunday. This is kind of comprehensive. I know some people don't think $50,000 is that much, but $50,000 out of the general fund could do a lot of good in other places. I know we've got buildings that need to be fixed, roads that need repair, and this doesn't guarantee us that we're going to get a rail line. And to come Sunday and Thursday night, we're voting on it. I don't feel prepared at all. I feel like we're ramming it through very quickly. I don't appreciate it coming on that quickly. I think something that's important should have been talked about for a couple of months before we brought it to the board in one night. So I will be voting no again tonight, but there's just some how many people does it take to ride that train every day to make it pay? I don't think we'll ever, for that many $1 billion, it'll never pay. We've got Peoria Charter has a bus that goes up there, or a couple of buses a day. They're already getting the job done, so it's not like we don't have other alternatives. That's my opinion, but thank you for letting me give it.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum. Ms. Groves Allison, then Ms. Bryant.
Just for the minutes, I wanted to correct that you had said we discussed it in executive session. It was the executive.
Thank you. I do
It was not
recall
discussed
saying
in
that. I
private.
didn't think anybody noticed, but thank you. Executive
It was
Committee.
open to everyone.
Thank you.
I also wanted to note that in terms of the local match, that we did have extensive review, both by Jenny and Jody, our state's attorney, and we are not committed to anything further than what we are doing right now. So we are guaranteed to not have rail service if we vote against this and everyone doesn't want to fund it. We are not guaranteed to get anything otherwise, but we can guarantee that we won't get it if we don't. I think that's all.
I had not thought of it that way. Thank you. Who else is handed? I just see Miss Bryant.
I am a regular train rider. I go to Bloomington. I have to drive to Bloomington to get on the train to go to Chicago. I go to Chicago often for entertainment that we may not have locally. I would like to be able to get on a train right here in my city and go to Chicago. I don't feel like I should have to drive all the way to Bloomington every time. We had 32,000 constituents say that they are in favor of a train being in our city locally. So why go against what 32,000 people have expressed their desire? I feel like we should at least try and give the people what they want.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Blair.
I had made some comments in executive committee about the economic benefits of this. One thing I left out was that it's not just Peoria to Chicago, it's all the other stops along the way. And so if I wanted to go to Starved Rock, if I want to go to other places, or others on that route can go, that can be really attractive. Also, if people are ending up in Peoria, downtown Peoria, that means they're going to be using downtown Peoria hotels and services rather than staying in a hotel out, like in East Peoria or something. And I think that's a huge economic benefit as well.
Thank you. Did I see somebody here on the left? Mr. Elsasser.
Well, I talked this over with my wife last night. It's kind of unusual because she really likes the train. We've gone to New Orleans on the train on a vacation, and many other places. But it's kind of concerning to me the fact that we had two train lines, the Rocket and then the Prairie. What was it? The Prairie what? Prairie what? Prairie Marksman. And they both ceased their service because there wasn't enough usage. And so I agree with Paul that this is kind of short notice, but I have had a little time to talk to a few of my constituents, and they said they would probably use it, maybe once every couple of years or so, or at least, try it out and see what it's like. But, one of them said to me, maybe we should be spending our money on fighting crime, or maybe on roads, or maybe on not spending our money, but using funds to lower our taxes. Because right now we have a situation in Illinois. Illinois, I think, is our biggest problem, and I think this region is doing maybe a little better, and it's because of the people we have here. People are exiting the area, and so 10 years from now, it'd be great if we had rail service, but we got to do something now, not only to keep people here, but to attract people. They finally did some work on Pioneer Park here recently, but if you're recruiting professional doctors from the East Coast and you're driving them around, they're going to make their decision on whether they come by what we have now, not by whether the rail service is going to be here in 10 years. And so 50,000 is not a lot of money, but to me, it's a tall stretch to think that it's going to happen with that 20% local match. I've been told through word of mouth from Secretary LaHood that the state will come up with that money. Well, I don't have a lot of confidence in our state government right now, so that's not very reassuring to me. So I will be a no vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Chairman Rand wants to say something because there's a theme here about how this came up so quickly, and it feels like it's being rammed through. The meeting I had as your representative to the Passenger Rail Leadership Committee was Friday morning at 10 a.m., and that's when this conversation developed. So it made it on to the Executive Committee agenda in time for this week. That's why it's short notice, is because the concept didn't come up till Friday. So I'd just like to clear that air. Next, Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to address we keep hearing about the funding that Peoria County will be on the dime for a considerable amount of money. So I wanted a legal opinion from Jenny regarding that. Are we legally binding ourselves to any future funding for this project?
No, the only thing that is before the board tonight is $50,000.
So we're signing no agreement. It's just
Correct. There are no agreements being proposed to be signed at this time. It is only the $50,000 ask passing the plate for the application to be submitted. Correct.
so at no time or in the future, if there is an ask, we can decline it.
Correct.
Thank you. Others? Steve? Mr. Recker? I'm sorry.
No, thank you. I'll keep it brief. I made some comments in committee earlier. I have two primary topics on it. One is I asked questions about the scope of this project, and it's not a high-speed rail. It's a passenger rail system that would run on a freight line with speeds around 70 mile an hour as a high end, up to 80 potential. So it's not what we hear about high speed. The other is well, I'm told it's a diesel locomotive from Amtrak. There'd be the potential. It's a diesel platform. And with all of the effort to get rid of carbon, and if this takes 10 years to build, develop, and 10 years from now in 2032, we say, hey, great, we got a great new diesel locomotive to run you to Chicago. I'm not sure that's really a good choice for our community and for the environment. So with the high-speed rail and the things that are out there, they're not magic either. I'm not putting that out. But I think the scope needs to be looked at a little bit closer. And then the funding, thank you, Ms. Williams, for clarifying. The funding, we're only asking to approve $50,000 here. But down the road, there will be matching. If it's approved and it moves to step 2, 3, whatever, there will be matching funding that is a local match. And whatever the local is, if it's county, city, state, somebody matches it. And to me, that's a risk. So for those two items, I will be a no vote tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Renault?
Thank you. I'm just a little bit confused by Mr. Ricker's statement about the carbon footprint, because our cars, gas cars and electric cars, can both drive on the same street. So if we're making a new rail line, I don't understand how all of a sudden tracks won't support an electric train.
Well, I think Mr. Ricker has a comment.
No, thank you for asking. No, and so I guess I've done a lot of work on this and research over the last 3-4 days. I have been privileged to have the pleasure of traveling to a lot of other countries in the world and riding high-speed rail. When a high-speed rail like the TGV and from Paris to Lyon, which I've rode probably 100 times, it runs 180 mile an hour. It runs on electricity. It has electrical lines above that you have an infrastructure grid that has to be put in to power it. It's not a battery like on a car. It's actual physical infrastructure grid that has to be built into the railway to make it work. So to convert to electric, which in the East Coast, in New Jersey, in some areas today, Amtrak does have an electric train, and Amtrak's committed to a carbon-free future with electric locomotives. But the electric locomotive today, by design, has to run on a track that has constant power rail line or electric power the whole length of the track. It's not that you put a battery in it like you would a car and charge it at one end or the other end. Maybe in the future it could be, but today, so there's a whole different infrastructure requirement for an electric powered train than there is a diesel powered train. And that's, you know, if we're going to spend the money to put a diesel powered train, why wouldn't we look at putting an electric one that's there for the future? Because these rail lines are, hopefully it's not a 10-year rail line and we get rid of it. It's a 100-year, 200-year rail line that supports our future generations. So my challenge is we're not planning ahead. We're building a 1972 rail line where we put a freight train and a passenger train on the same rail and put diesel in it. That's what my ask is, but thank you.
One more, sure.
I just wanted to say, but I don't know if we can plan exactly for what technology is going to be at the time. I mean, they're also looking at magnets driving, not electric, but magnets that drive the locomotives, putting magnets along the rails. They switch them on and off. It pushes it. A lot of roller coasters are built that way right now. So I don't know if we can plan for technology that's not necessarily there yet, but I think, like Jennifer said, you know, if we vote no, it's no, period.
Mr. Ricker.
I don't want this to be a debate, Rob, but I appreciate the conversation. One of the comments a few of the other my peers said, we didn't have a lot of time, and I'm not challenging our chairman because he was asked on Friday morning for this. So it's not the chairman's situation that we didn't have time, it's the overall project being brought to the Peoria County Board asking for it within a 6-day window of time. If we could, and I've asked the question a couple times to Mr. Sorrell, what would happen if we spend the next 30 days educating, doing a better job, and coming back next month? And I was told that it's either now, the deadline doesn't allow us to move it out for another month to have a better understanding and education for the board members.
All right, anything new, Mr. Windish? Could you use your mic, please?
I guess I hear all the debates. I think this is, I just wanted to explain, I'm going to be a no vote. But I hear, and I think it's the great idea, and I hear like Brandy and everybody speaking. I think we're elected by our district. If you look at my district, whether it's today, tomorrow, or not, we're always 30 minutes away from whether it's downtown or we already have Kewanee and Galesburg. So just out of the fact of that, I do not think it's a good investment for the district, but I think it's a great idea. I don't know how to explain that. So that is the reason that I will be voting no.
Thank you. Anybody on the phone, either Ms. Rutherford or Ms. Pastucha, comment before I ask for the vote?
Rachel, I'll just make a quick comment in support of what some of my colleagues have already mentioned, and for the same reasons of looking into the future and what the future needs of our districts are going to be, and then also the timeline and the commitment for the funding for this. I'm also going to be a no vote at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pastucha, any comment?
I think this is a very important vote for our community, and I will be a yes vote.
Okay. So this is, thank you. Before I do the math on this is a supermajority required for a budget amendment. Mr. Fennell, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you. Amtrak doesn't have a very good record of they're losing money every place they go. So I was very apprehensive of voting for this project. It does go right through my community. Anything that we do to make improvements to that rail going through there makes it safer for my residents in my area. So whether in the future they opt to open up a depot there in Chillicothe like it once was, I don't know, when the rocket ran through there. But I listened to the votes, and I originally was against this, and I am changing to a positive vote. A lot of, for the reasons of hearing from everyone else, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for keeping an open mind. Seeing no other hands, Madam Clerk, all those.
You will be able to use your apparatus there to vote, and I will read off the results because our screen is not on, so, but you can use that to vote. Once he calls it.
Please vote.
Member Pastusha?
Aye.
Member Relaford?
Aye.
13 ayes, 5 nays, with Elsasser, Relaford, Ricker, Rosenbaum, and Windisch voting nay.
Thank you very
13 ayes,
much.
5 nays.
Thank you for the vote. Mr. Miller, are you still with us, Eric? Thanks for your input tonight. Appreciate it. And thank you for the work you do at Tri-County. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Fennell.
did it reach the supermajority? I don't know.
Yes, 13-5.
13 to
13
5.
to 5. Do you want to do a roll call? Because I skipped that.
No, I went ahead and marked it.
Okay, all right. Now we'd be back to item 1, approval of the minutes. And I get a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, Ms. Daly. And thank you, Mr. Rosenbaum. We have a first and a second. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, please vote.
Ms. Pastusha? I'm sorry. Let me put her out there.
Kate has left the meeting.
Yes, she has. Board Member Relaford?
Aye.
You may use your apparatus to vote. Some of you still have not voted. I know you can't see it, so Member Allison, Member Dillon, Member Duncan have not voted yet. There we go. 17 ayes.
Thank you.
Next we'd be at proclamations.
All right. We ran out of time, so I need Member Williams to come up and do a proclamation for national preparedness. And then we'll be followed by Mr. Ricker on
The Veterans Assistance.
proclamations for VAC.
Yeah. So the first one is a proclamation recognizing September as National Emergency Preparedness Month.
Thank you. This is a proclamation for National Preparedness Month. Whereas National Preparedness Month creates an important opportunity for every resident of Peoria County to prepare their homes, businesses, and communities for any type of emergency, including natural disasters and potential terrorist attacks. And whereas investing in the preparedness of ourselves, our families, businesses, and communities can reduce fatalities and economic devastation in our communities and in our nation. And the life you've built is worth protecting, and preparing for disasters creates a legacy for you and your family. And whereas the Federal Emergency Management Agency's READY campaign and other federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, private, and volunteer agencies are working to increase public activities in preparing for emergencies and to educate individuals on how to take action. And whereas emergency preparedness is the responsibility of every resident of Peoria County, and all community members are urged to make preparedness a priority and work together as a team to ensure that individuals, families, and communities are prepared for disasters and emergencies of any type. And whereas all residents of Peoria County are encouraged to participate in preparedness activities and become more prepared. Now, therefore, I, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby recognize September 22 as National Preparedness Month and encourage all community members to develop their own emergency preparedness plan and work together towards creating a more prepared society. Dated this 8th day of September, AD 2022, signed Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairman, and Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk.
Chairman Rand, I just want to say thank you for this proclamation, and again, I just take the opportunity to thank the board for taking a chance, I guess, I don't know, what was it, 4 years ago, to move the emergency management responsibilities in the health department and kind of give us an opportunity to show what we could do. And so just appreciate all the support I get, particularly from the board. And it'd be remiss not to share. I know there's a number of my colleagues from the sheriff's office and other county agencies. All I do is coordinate things. They do all the hard work. I just kind of get them in the room together to do it. So I appreciate everything. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Next would be a proclamation recognizing team members of the Veterans Assistance Commission of Peoria County.
Welcome, Mr. Ricker.
Thank you.
Hello.
To bring everybody in. Oh, okay. Come on in, everyone. We got more. We got more coming in. Yeah, right? They're guests. Oh, we can. All right, but we'll at least get them in the view, okay? All
Yes.
right.
Follow Mr. Ricker's advice. He knows what he speaketh.
Bring them in. We love the veterans, and we love all the things the veterans have done for our country to give us our freedom and support. So I'm always pleased to have an opportunity to have this group here in front of us. So at this point, I'll give the proclamation, and then we'll allow Mr. Brooks. I think I'll allow him to speak because sometimes he likes to speak, and he does a good job. So whereas Peoria County wishes to recognize and thank all the team members at the Veterans Assistance Commission of Peoria County for their work in bringing the $43.2 million to our community in 2021 through VA compensation for local veterans, and they have helped veterans secure more than $39.6 million so far in 2022. So they're on a run to beat last year's numbers. Whereas in 2021, team members helped bring in $7.1 million in lump sum payments to local veterans. And so far in 2022, they have worked to secure $5.5 million in lump sum payments. And whereas the Veterans Assistance Commission continues to expand the number of individuals it reaches every year by offering both in-person and virtual services, leaving a lasting impact on our community through their outreach. And whereas the dedication of Heath Williams, we'll get Heath to put his name up here or hand up, Will Studgel, all right, thank you, Will. Caleb Mitchell, thank you, Caleb. Mike Grow, we'll get them in the right order here. I'm making it difficult for you. Christina Glover, thank you, Christina. Trish is not here tonight. Trisha Collins is off a little bit ill. Hopefully she's online watching. Thank you for your service also, if you're watching. And then Michael Brooks, thank you. With that, it's a testament to their belief in the mission of the organization. So this team here is providing all of this support for our veterans. And the expertise of each, which has been integral to the success of the commission and the vital work it does. Now, therefore, I, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby recognize the staff of the Veterans Assistance Commission. Dated this 8th day of September, AD 2022, Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairman, Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk. And I'm going to hand the mic to Mr. Brooks. Okay.
Thanks, Steve. I just want to say thank you to all my staff. Their dedication and passion to veterans is second to none in the country other than the state. Everyone standing up here is veterans. They serve their country, so thank you for that as well. I just want to thank the Peoria County Board because you allow us to do our job. And everyone up here has a passion for helping veterans. It's not just a job to them. They take these home at the end of the night, and we take home the losses more than the wins. Fortunately, we have a lot more wins than losses, but we're here to help veterans, and that's just our passion. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Chairman,
Mr. Dillon.
while Mike's up there, I think that we need to recognize him for winning the Goodwill Veterans Patriot Award here recently, which is a good honor. So while you're here, I know that you've been tireless at this, so just wanted to say congratulate you on a well-deserved award.
Thanks,
from
Steve.
Goodwill.
Next, we'd be at citizens' remarks.
We have one tonight, Mr. Rowell. Would you like to sit at that table and speak from there?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. Would you make sure that mic's on, Brian?
Test. It's lit. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
I'm trying to request. I'll request that I have an easement on existing driveways. It's for what's coming up, number 5 here. I don't know how this works, but that's where we're at. Requesting an easement to use the existing driveway on our property that's getting split up. And requesting use of the existing well that my house is attached to. That's all. Just want to get it in there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next would be consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Elsasser and Ms. Daly on the second. Any items on consent that a member would like to pull? Everybody good? Then please vote.
Member Relaford,
Aye.
17 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Zoning ordinance and resolutions. Item number 1 is case number ZBA 2022-031, petition of Linda Ramsey, a special use as required in section 20-5.2.2.1.a.1 of the Unified Development Ordinance. This section allows for a special use when a proposed land split does not meet the 25-acre minimum lot size, nor the 1 dwelling unit per 25 contiguous acres density requirement in the A2 agricultural district. The petitioner proposes to divide the existing 9.708 acre parcel into 3 parcels of approximately 1.284 acres, 1.567 acres, and 6.857 acres. The parcel is located in Chillicothe Township. The Zoning Board of Appeals recommends approval with restrictions. The Land Use Committee concurs.
Mr. Dillon on the motion to approve and a second for Mr. Fennell. Discussion? Mr. Dillon.
Just so for clarification to everybody, the gentleman that just spoke, he did speak at land use. It's a petition of a family to settle an estate and bring these properties into conformance. So everything that was said there was accurate. He could say it because it was said at the hearing, and he just wanted to get it into today's record too. But it is a family settling an estate, so they're dividing it among the siblings, I believe. So just wanted to make that clear for everybody, and Kathy's here if there's any further questions that would need to be answered.
Thank you. Questions regarding the item? Seeing none, please vote.
Member Relaford?
Aye.
17 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Item number 2, case WAV 2022-0003, petition of Linda Ramsey, a resolution from your Land Use Committee recommending approval of a waiver of compliance from Section 20-8.3.4.1.b.2.a of the Unified Development Ordinance. This section requires a new minor subdivision to have public water supply. The petitioner is proposing to serve a 3-lot subdivision with private wells. The parcel is located in Chillicothe Township.
Mr. Dillon on the motion to approve, Mr. Fennell on the second. Mr. Dillon, any comment? Questions or comments, members? Seeing none, please vote.
Member Relaford?
Aye.
17 ayes, 0 nays. Item number 4 is suspension of rules.
Any motion to approve the suspension of the rules, please? Thank you, Dr. Blair, and thank you, Ms. Groves Allison. Any questions? I got it right again this month, so it's the last 2 in a row. Please vote.
Member Relaford?
Aye.
Member Elsesser? 16 ayes, 1 nay, with Member Windisch voting nay. Item number 5 is proclamation extending the declaration of emergency due to COVID-19 in Peoria County, Illinois.
And a motion to approve. Dr. Blair and Mr. Fennell, thank you. Any questions, Mr. Fennell?
Be aware of how much, because of these 2 rules that we've had for the last couple years, how much money have we been able to reimburse roughly, Scott? I know you don't have an exact number, but roughly have we, because of this?
So the fact that both the federal government, the state government, and this government has had a disaster declaration, we've received initial tranche was $1.5 million, and we've applied for close to $1 million more beyond that and received most all of it. And there's been other grant programs that have come down that are several $100,000 each in their award. Technically, ARPA is not directly related to this, but it's indirectly related to it. So you could make an argument that that's applicable to. That's $34.8 million. So, I would say if you include our ARPA allocations, we're probably pushing the mid to upper $30 million range. Not quite 40, but maybe close.
Thank you. The point being is we have a lot of people vote against this, but it's bringing money back in. We're getting reimbursed for our expenses, and I think it's good that we do support this. Thank you.
There were a lot of grants that went through the public health department. I'm thinking form another line item that we really enjoyed the support. I know Jason Marks was the recipient of a bunch of it. So, Mr. Ricker?
Yeah, I'd like to tag on Mr. Fennell, ask my primary question, but
how much?
We've been doing this for however many months, and it sort of becomes just a habit, so to speak. And I'd like to make it more clear to our current board members and anyone watching as to why we're doing what we're doing. And I think we got a pretty good answer as far as doing this allows us to apply for funding grants under it. And maybe, Scott, if you are answering a question, but maybe you could frame it as to what is this declaration and kind of the high-level purpose just for everybody in the room and watching online.
Sure thing, Mr. Gurn. It's been several months since this has been part of the discussion on this item. The easiest comparable or analogy would be is when a community experiences a natural disaster. That could be a hurricane, a tornado, a flood, a wildland fire. The locality, in this case that's us, the state and or the federal governments declare a disaster, make a disaster declaration. That allows that local government and that state government to access federal dollars that in natural disasters, as an example, run through FEMA. In the nature of COVID, it ran through multiple agencies of the federal government, including Treasury, including HHS and the CDC, and a whole host of others. So what the declaration allows us to access and tap into those dollars. If we don't have that declaration, then we don't have access to those dollars. We don't get reimbursed for our expenses related to that we incurred as a result of responding to that disaster. As it relates to COVID, it like a natural disaster is a disaster under the Stafford Act, which is the federal law that governs how disasters are declared. It was a public health disaster, and the federal government determined under the previous administration and has continued with the current administration that a disaster does exist, or the need for a disaster declaration needs to exist. The governor in this state and many others has determined that there's a statewide need for a continued disaster declaration, and obviously every month this board, a majority of this board has voted to do the same. Going forward, some of you have asked how much longer are we going to keep doing this, and my answer to you is as long as there is a state and a federal declaration, because we do not want to turn the spigot off for those reimbursement dollars at any point in time. So when the state government and the federal government decides that there's no longer a need for a disaster, then we will follow suit.
Thank you. That was a good question, Mr. Ed.
Right.
Mr. Wendy? Oh.
I just want to make a kind of follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Sorrell, for doing that, because, again, this is bringing in state and federal funds to support our cost. We're not asking our taxpayers in the county to pay this. So as a taxpayer should be saying, do what you need to do to support the cost impacted. I think some people perceive this as the county's judgment on our opinion on COVID, no COVID, has nothing to do with our opinion on COVID. It has all to do with obtaining recovery funds to pay off the expenses we've had that are associated to providing that service. So again, thank you for articulating what you did, but sometimes I think we lose sight of what the purpose of this one's for.
Thank you. Mr. Windish?
I guess now that we've been doing this for, I don't know how long it's been, I got two questions. Which one exactly asks if we have passed this declaration? And what justifies this not coming through committee at this point? Why is it just...
So it doesn't come through committee because of the timing of the state's declaration in relationship to yours. Under state law, whether it be the state government or local government, this is only valid for 30 days. That's why we have to do it every single month. And based on when your prior action was in relationship to when the governor makes his decision to renew on a monthly basis the state declaration, those don't coexist and align with our committee structure. So that's the why we bring it as an item under suspended rules. And then, that answers your second question, Mr. Windish. What was your first question again?
Who directly has asked if we pass this proclamation every month on any of those?
In terms of whether or not we should pass it or not, there's been no board members to whether or not we should or should that has asked as to whether or not we should or should not. By matter of practice, we've made the recommendation to the staff's made this recommendation to this body to say, we incur costs related to responding to COVID. And there's an opportunity to get state and federal dollars to reimburse us instead of using local dollars to do that, and so we bring it forward from that perspective. The other point is on the money side. The state of Illinois is a state that gives more tax dollars to the federal government than we receive back. From staff's perspective and from my perspective, when we make recommendations on things related to this, it's always been our position for you to consider that we should try and obtain as much federal dollars and reimbursement from the federal government as possible to make sure that our fair share is coming back to us. That doesn't mean the rest of the state gets that, has that same attitude at the local level, but for this local unit of government, we want to make sure that we're getting the maximum amount, because it's better to spread that cost amongst 350 some odd million Americans versus just the 180,000 of us that live here in Peoria County.
I agree with that, but who has directly, is that anybody just ask if you have this proclamation, yes, you get the money, or no, you don't?
So the way the Stafford Act is written, if we don't have this, we don't get the reimbursement dollars. This is a requirement. You have to declare a disaster to be able to be eligible to get those dollars. And if you don't do it, then you don't get in line to get the dollars. The uniqueness of this one is it's been going on for since March of 2020. If we had like when we had the tornado in Elmwood, we did it for 2 or 3 months. And then the state government, there was no federal disaster declaration, but the state government did one, and they closed up theirs, and then we closed ours up, roughly 3 months after that tornado. And then Elmwood started its recovery process.
You good? If you'll actually, it starts on page 75 in my book here, the comprehensive resolution on this. It's a very interesting document that delves into many facets of how we could be reimbursed, and it's quite interesting. But it's like 5 pages long. Anybody else? Did we just vote on this? Okay. All right. Please vote.
Member Relaford?
Nay.
Put my glasses on so I can see. 13 ayes, 4 nays, with Elsesser, Relaford, Rosenbaum, and Windisch voting nay.
Thank you. Miscellaneous and announcements. It's 7 o'clock. We have time for some. If anybody's got some, I'm going to start on my right. Mr. Watkins, move it along. Let's go home. I hear you. Okay. Mr. Fennell.
Anybody wants to have breakfast in Chillicothe Saturday morning, the Chillicothe Fire Department Auxiliary Group is going to have pancakes and sausage at 7 o'clock, starting 7 o'clock at Station 1, right just south of the old depot.
Jim tells me it's about $5. Anyone else? Miss Duncan.
For those who may be concerned and would need to know, Queen Elizabeth has passed away at the age of 96.
Oh. Thank you. Ms. Williams?
Thank you. I just want to let everyone know that Limestone Township is having an electronics collection on Wednesday, September 28th. Information is available on our website because you do need to register to be a part of that.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank everybody for the tone and tenor of both the executive committee and full board meetings today on a budget resolution. I appreciate it. We don't do them often, and there's a reason we don't, but I appreciate the nature of the discussion. And after that, we would be adjourned. Thank you, everyone.